So in terms of their differences, Britt is a lot more like internal with her bullying and more posh, while Tiff is more like grunge and definitely more extroverted and in your face about it. So some good episodes include Class Action, which is the first episode where Jenny goes to high school, so she obviously meets them. Great Unwashed, which is an episode where they are all going to a party and Jenny gets this amazing makeover. They don't like it, so they get a mudslinger, literal mudslinger, to go after her. Dressed to Kill, which is one of my favorites, because it has a great little plot twist at the end where they find these outfits that have a bunch of crystals in them and just happen to give them superpowers, which they use. Pajama Party Prankapalooza, where they invite Jenny to a PJ party and get her almost in a tuck-like fashion to do all of these pranks, except they are really bad pranks. And then Queen Bee, which is an episode where they get Vexus, of all characters, to become popular. So yeah, and we'll get to her in a little bit. This clip is a bit of a more classic clip, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip it, but it's a clip from Class Action where she first meets Britt and Tiff and the whole, I'll wait for your call. And then they're voiced by Moira Quirk and Cree Summer. That name in particular should be a pretty big one to you guys. All right, we have some other characters. We have the Cluster, which the main three you should know about when it comes to the Cluster is Vexus, who is the queen bee. There's definitely like a bug motif there. There is Smitus, a.k.a. Destroyer of Worlds, who is like the brute. And Crackus, who's supposed to be like the smart one, but his inventions tend to always fall apart. The Cluster is your typical run-of-the-mill, tropish robots that want to take over the world, want to enslave the human race. But the difference here is there is a robot that stops them, and that is, of course, Jenny. We have the Space Bikers, who, unlike the Cluster, don't want to take over the world. They just want to cause a lot of havoc. We have the XJs. We talked about how there were XJs 1 through 8, and they each have a different quirk. So like the ones that are here, I think actually all of them are here. So we have XJ1, who's a crybaby, XJ2, who does not know how to control her lasers, XJ3, who is constantly falling apart, XJ4, who is a neat freak, XJ5, who is a chatterbox, XJ6, who is constantly jealous, XJ7, who is always a mope, and XJ8, who's a brute. So they have some fun ups. Then we have the teen team. The main one you need to know about is Misty, because she's the only one that's in multiple episodes. And they're kind of like, especially Misty, kind of anti-hero-ish. Like, they'll save the day for a price, like if they get what they want. So they're interesting in that regard. They're a nice little foil to Jenny in that way. We have Melody, who I kind of talked about already as part of a lot of Brad's arcs. She ends up helping him quite a bit. They might get into a bit of a thing that Jenny might not always like, for things I have already mentioned. Also Kilgore, Surrender. Kilgore is a tiny little robot that also wants to take over the world, but he is a tiny toy, which makes it hard for him to do so, but everybody thinks he's adorable because of that, which makes it so Jenny can't really defeat him, because then people will be mad at her. So we have a few classic episode arcs. We have the No Evil series, Hear No Evil, Speak No Evil, and See No Evil. Hear No Evil is basically Jenny wants a pair of ears so she can have earrings. Speak No Evil I was tempted to put in the Jenny slide, but I ended up not putting it in because not as much for Jenny, but for Janice. Because the entire episode has her speaking in Japanese with the exception of her last line. It is a hoot, it is a classic. If you watch any of the No Evil series, please let it be Speak No Evil. And See No Evil is where she gets a pair of eyes from her mom that she absolutely hates. It's very akin to like the episode of Powerpuff Girls where Bubbles gets glasses. It reminds me a lot of that. And then we have the Raggedy Android series where Jenny gets an exoskin that's supposed to help her blend in with humans. Raggedy Android is where it does not work out. Return of Raggedy Android is where it does, with a twist. I love this episode because it is very feminist. And this is actually a little exo Jenny I've got going on here. I swear I am not being taken over. And then we have the Silver Shell series. So we have Shell Game, which is the first step. We have Saved by the Shell, where he gets into a bit of a fight with Don Prima, which is hilarious because they're both voiced by Quentin. We have Dancing with My Shell, which is Jenny invites him to the Sadie Hawkins dance, and then A Pain in My Sidekick, where Tuck finds out about his secret identity and tags along with him. We got some more iconic and favorite episodes. I'm not really going to go over these, but I do want to kind of show them off. For the first season, we have It Came From Next Door, which is the first step, Gridiron Glory, Jenny plays football, and Trade Show Showdown, Jenny goes to a robot convention. Season 2, we have Robot for All Seasons, the Christmas ep, Victim of Fashion, the other 20-minute special besides Robot for All Seasons, and Armageddon, an episode that gets surprisingly dark. We have Stage Fright, which I just love because I'm a theater kid, Never Say Uncle, which is an episode where we meet Mrs. Wakeman's sister and Jenny's cousin, and The Legion of Evil, which is what it says on the tin, a bunch of one-off villains come together and try to beat Jenny. But the real big episode, pretty much everybody has decided, best episode of the series, Escape from Cluster Prime. This was the 140-minute special they got, and they milked it. They milked the heck out of it. They did CGI, they did the whole 9 yards. It is amazing. If you go back and rewatch one episode, please let it be Escape from Cluster Prime. But don't let it be your first step, because there's episodes you should watch before it. I would say watch all of season 1 and 2 before watching Cluster Prime. All right, you got your other media. There were some online flash games back in the day, including Techno Tennis. They also had a hangman, a word search, and a personality test. We had console games. We had Nicktoons Attack of the Toy Bots, and recently we got Jenny and Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl due to a lot of fan support. And because of that, she also ended up getting into Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3. We have some other video games. She was in this PC game called Nicktoons Basketball, and she was in this Game Boy Advance game called Freeze Frame Frenzy, which was a very Pokemon Snap-esque shooter. And then there was also this game called Super Brawl Universe. It was a mobile game. I didn't actually play it, but it was kind of a precursor to Brawl from what I know. And there is some merch. There is System Operator merch. I have a bag right here that's on Cafe Press. I believe it's still on there. It was made for the crew of the series, but then they ended up just putting all the logos on Cafe Press so people could get whatever they wanted with them. There is an art book. I have the first edition. There is a second edition that is on Amazon currently. And also recently, Zen Monkey has come out with some pins. They had a limited edition one also that a friend gave me. And then there was also a ride randomly at one point that was in Germany. So that was cool. All right, we're gonna get into a bit of the history of the fandom. I kind of zoomed through those last few slides because I wanted to go into this one in a teeny bit more detail. So, back in 2003, we did not have social media as we know it. We did not have our Twitters and our Instagrams in order to reach out to creators. What we had were blogs. So the one that they had was the Teenage Roblog. Has anybody heard of this? I'm curious. Yes, one person has heard of it. Yes, thank you. So, yes, there were posts on there by XJ Writer, Alex Kerwan, and by Alex Cartoon, and Witchabot. They did a lot of behind-the-scenes sketches, but those are all in the art book, so I want to show this. They had a lot of Nickelodeon Studios type contests. One of them, they combined with the production team of SpongeBob to make a car, and they won. So they also love their Halloween. This is poor Jenny getting zapped by the cluster. We had pro boards instead of our Discord. So the three big ones were Tremerton High, and then Teenage Robot Tremerton, and this is actually their logo to this day. And then we have Teenage Robot Saga, which is not available anymore. It was a slight RP, kind of based off of stuff from TRT. But this second one was the logo when I was big on TRT. So yeah. And then of course you have fanfic and fan art. Nowadays it's on the social medias and on Archive of Our Own. Back then it was on fanfiction.net and deviantart.com. And with that you got a lot of OCs, and I have here my 4 favorites. So we have Drew, who was written by Coyote Loon, who was human but infected by a bunch of cluster nanobots, and it turned him into a shape-shifting android. We have Sam Sanderson, who was written by Queen Bee 3, and she was kind of like the girl that hung out with Jenny. We have one of my personal favorites, who I am still friends with this guy to this day, XJ0, who's kind of inspired by Mega Man, but nowadays is more inspired by like the Superman comics of the 20s and 30s. And then we have my character. If anybody was on the fandom back in the day and knew of a Jessie Winkler, that was me! And then I had some other characters too, but she was mainly inspired by like the hybrid, half human, half blah trend of the mid-2000s. So she was half human, half robot. She transformed using a trinket, very a la Henshin Sailor Moon-esque. All right, we only got a few more slides to go. We have the future of the fandom. So we have a lot of role plays now, really, instead of a lot of fanfic. So we have OCs abound. I went out at the fandom for a little bit because of college and all that stuff. When I came back, my character was dating Zero's character at the time. Disclaimer, we were not dating. He is happily married to a woman of, I want to say at least 10 years at this point. Ironically, her name is also Jenny, but that is pure coincidence. So he got into a relationship with a little character named Vio, so then he made this little sketch once I came back into the picture. And then this was a picture that he suggested I add of kind of a big shot of the fandom to this day. And then we had fan art that continues in new ways. There was a comic made by Rets of Nora in 2013, and it was recently dubbed with yours truly as Jenny. I'm just gonna show like just a tad, like maybe 30-second snippet of it, just for giggles. Disclaimer, this is not my best work. I like to think I had a better mic and my voice was kind of shot, but there you go.
Great, Mom didn't tell me this thing was laser-proof, and I just had to leave all my missiles at home too. Tiny! The house not laser-proof either. Yes, I can do now. Dodging all these missiles. I hope it runs out before sundown? Already? No! The movie's starting by now! That does it!
This is my favorite part of the comic.
You've tried blowing me up and eating my friends numerous times. But when you make me miss seeing my Ian McCoy, that is when it gets personal!
So Jenny, it hurts. All right. And then we have a bunch of fan projects that are starting. We had a couple people ask, are they ever going to reboot the show? Well, there is a fan project called Teenage Robot Rebooted, and it is a fan-made season 4 and 5, and it is supported by Rob Renzetti. It has a YouTube and a Discord. Its first animatic for its first episode, Activation Day, is available on its YouTube. We have the My Life as a Teenage Robot fan base, which is another YouTube channel, and it has a Discord and a Facebook group. It's a very like general teenage robot channel. Highly recommend checking it out. And this is recent. It was posted on Newgrounds at the beginning of the month, and literally just got posted and approved to YouTube yesterday. Teenage Robot Reanimated. That was made for the 20th anniversary, and it's what it says on the tin. A bunch of people put their animations into the first episode with some new voiceover. Zero's actually in it as a cameo, so that's nice. Ah, I already did this. All right, there we go. A quick little where to watch for those of you that are like, how do I get back to watching the show? So there is streaming, which the main streaming service that you would want for Teenage Robot is Paramount Plus. And it also gives you access to other niche shows, CBS, MTV. It is a pay-by-month though, so you don't get to keep the episodes. If you want something digital where you pay once and keep forever, you can get either Amazon Prime or Apple TV or iTunes. And I have streaming, and this is the other option I have, is physical. So you can get DVDs by season through Amazon and other online retailers. There was also the Nitpicks DVDs, where you get an episode, a DVD. And then does anybody remember Video Now? They had 2 Teenage Robot discs on Video Now. It was like a thing before portable DVD players existed. All right. This is my last slide for what's up next until whoever comes up next for a panel is ready to start setting up. But some other conventions that I go to KatsuCon, which is right here. I go to AwesomeCon, Blurred, ODA, Station Unity, AUSA, and I stop at MagFest, but is it a convention? No, it's really a donut. So other panels that I present Bending and Arcanums, which is comparing and contrasting Avatar and Dragon Prince, Shadows and Guilt, which compares and contrasts Persona and Trauma Center, Cosplay Photoshoot Meetups 101, which I actually did earlier this weekend. And I'm hoping Gems and Senshi, or Senshi and Gems, I'm hoping to do something about that because Steven Universe and Sailor Moon have quite a bit in common, so I'd like to do a panel on that. And then I also organize and manage photo shoots every so often. I host Western Animation, and when I do that, Teenage Robot is obviously welcome. And honestly, I want to say more times than not, I cosplay Jenny. So, in some way, not always, but it tends to happen quite a bit. All right. I see somebody in the back. I don't know if that is somebody that is waiting to come in and set up. If they are welcome to come in. Because yeah, I am done. Unless anybody has any like random questions while we're waiting for setup.
What's your favorite episode?
Cluster Prime! You were here when I said that. I will say my least favorite episode is This Time with Feeling because it basically took everything canonically with like Jenny's powers and threw it out the window. Like, why are you doing this? Pretty much everybody agrees that the best episode is Cluster Prime, but everybody has a different least favorite episode, and mine is This Time with Feeling. I hate that one. But yeah, I want to go ahead and because a bunch of the people in this room are staff, I want to get out of y'all's hair. Thank you all for letting me present this.
Alrighty.